Welcome to Adventures in Life. I'm Earl Beecher, your host. Our guest today is Paul Watkins, Dr. Paul Watkins. He is the Dean of two colleges at the TUI University in Cypress, California. And those two colleges are the College of Business Administration and the College of Information Systems. And Dr. Watkins, what I'd like to do is to start off with a little bit about the university itself and then about each of the colleges and about the status of education today in general. The university's name is TUI. You told me it used to be something else and it was changed to initials just to be up to date?
It was. Originally it was started out as TURO, T-O-U-R-O, University International. And we had a name change last fall to TUI University. It's simpler, shorter, hopefully easier to remember.
And it's entirely a distance learning institution?
That's correct, 100%.
What does that mean?
Well, quite simply, distance learning is contrasted with traditional learning. Traditional learning, individuals have to go to a campus, a classroom, and sit there and take classes. Distance education is without space or time. You don't have to show up at a particular place at a particular time. You can take it in the convenience of your home, your office, wherever you may be.
Is this on the web?
It's on the web, and it's also can be something like a compact disc or a DVD.
Wait a minute. I can get a compact disc, put it in my computer at home. Is it interactive? Is that what?
Everything that a student needs to do the work is on the compact disc, all the course materials. We encourage students to use the internet to search, to access libraries, those kind of things, but the bulk of the learning materials are on the compact disc.
Oh, I didn't know that. And a DVD. So you use that. You said something about not using textbooks, and I want to understand that.
Well, it's quite interesting. At our university, we don't use textbooks, we don't have tests, and we are a little unconventional in that way, but we believe that textbooks are difficult to maintain, they're very expensive for students, it's difficult to make sure you're working with the right edition and the right context for the courses that you may be dealing with. So we have our professors develop the course content. It's like they're writing mini textbooks for each of those courses. And it's the professor's responsibility then to keep those courses up to date and current and interesting and exciting and use current resources that might be found in online databases or on the internet or other sources to
So if you sign up for Finance 101 from a certain professor and Finance 101 from a different professor, you might be getting somewhat of a different course?
No, the courses are identical. That's the nice thing about distance learning is the scalability. You create a course, Finance 101 as you state, and then that can be distributed to as many students as you may have.
But they all have the same professor?
No, they don't.
Who's grading their papers?
We have a student-to-faculty ratio of about 40. 40 students per single faculty member. So we have faculty members that are assigned to sections of 40 students to work with individuals, give them feedback, grade their assignments, interact with them via email.
So it's done email?
The communications between the students and the faculty members are done via email. Students submit their assignments via the internet to an online repository where their assignments are managed and faculty can log in and grade and give feedback to student papers.
Now, you said something about no tests.
That's right, no tests.
Now, I can't. Okay, tell me, because I'm an old college professor, as all my viewers know.
Well, think about if any of you were in college and took classes where you had tests, what was the typical approach? For most of us, it was like cramming the night before the test.
Amen.
And so you'd read the materials, you'd cram, you'd take a multiple choice or true false test,
Yeah.
and you may pass the course and you come out of that experience, and maybe 6 months later, a year later, certainly 20 years later, you may have little or no recollection about the material that you supposedly learned in that particular class. We require papers. Students have to write essays, and the
It's more
essays
essay-oriented.
we're looking for things. We're not really focusing on the critical aspects of syntax and grammar, those kind of things. We're looking for critical thought processes, the ability for students to think and reason and provide arguments to support their assertions. In the case of a finance course or a math course, they may have to solve some mathematical problems, but then they have to explain what they did and why they did it and justify it that way. So we're all about exposition and trying to get in the minds of the students and exercise them as see how they are exercising their critical thinking skills to solve these issues and problems.
It sounds like you're getting more into thinking and less memorizing and regurgitating.
Exactly. There is no memorizing and regurgitating.
Yeah, right. Okay, I want to know, you and I think, both agree that education is in a state of crisis in California. We hear these reports about how suddenly the cost of education has gone up per unit so much that so many 100,000 of the students were forced to drop out of school. And we're hearing more budget cuts are coming, and we're getting more private schools. In what way is your approach going to help solve some of these problems?
One of the key benefits of distance learning is from the institutional level itself. In the traditional California setting, where you have college campuses and some of the world's best universities are in California, but there's a perpetual budget crunch. There's not enough resources available in the state to continually expand college campuses and provide the so-called bricks and mortars that those institutions need to be able to fulfill their mission. Mm-hmm. With distance learning, there is no capital outlay. Students don't come to your institution to learn, so you need a basic set of...
You mean they don't come onto a campus?
Correct.
But they do come to your institution to learn?
Yes, virtually.
I want to be sure
yes,
we're
they
straight
do come
on that.
virtually, and we interact with them virtually, but we don't need the extensive investment in plant and capital projects and
bricks and mortar,
new classrooms and new technology to facilitate those students. So from that perspective, it should make education more affordable, and certainly from an institutional perspective, make it more feasible for institutions to continue to succeed in California.
Okay, how old is your university?
Our university is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year in July.
So it started from scratch 10 years ago.
Yes, it
How
did.
big is it now?
We have about 8,000 students now.
And growing?
And growing. We have every session, we call them sessions, they're similar to semesters. Every session that TOI has been in existence, we've grown. We've never had a session where we've had a decline in enrollment.
And where are your students located?
All over the world. That's the nice thing about distance education, distance learning. There are no boundaries as long as you have the ability to have a computer and put a compact disc in and transmit the information back via the internet. Or if you don't have internet access like some of our students, you can send it back by snail mail or by carrier pigeon or whatever is accessible to you. Yeah.
Okay, I know that you're all over the world, and you don't have the typical college crowd like the 18, 19 to 21-year-olds. Who are most of your students?
Most of our students are adult learners. We are targeted, our mission is to the adult learner. That doesn't mean we'll exclude a 17 or 19 or 21-year-old, but in my opinion, those are better served by going to the local college campuses, because a lot of the part of education at that level is the socialization and the ability to make friends and get into clubs and fraternities or whatever it is they decide to do. Sure,
it's a big part of it.
But let's look at a typical person who's been out of school for a while, who maybe had a year or so of college and then left and went into the workplace or into the military, whatever it is they chose to do, and now they want to go back to school. Well, typically the option is to...
What motivates them to want to go back to school? You said that, but I know I've been teaching some classes for a local university, and they're off campus, and I had students in age ranking from about 23 to 65 in my classes. What motivates a person to do that?
I don't know that there's a single factor. I think there's a variety of factors. Some people, for example, I have an acquaintance who had a bachelor's degree, went to work for a large company right out of college, university, worked there for a number of years, worked up the corporate ladder, got into an area that he was very happy with, and then the economy kind of took a dive, and now he's out of work. And so now he's coming back as a person with a lot of experience and a high-quality bachelor's degree, but he can't find a job because what he's competing against are all the individuals submitting applications who have master's degrees or MBAs in this case, and he doesn't. And a lot of times the companies are looking for that additional college training. Even though experience is important, they still look for the degree. So there's one example of someone who may need to come back and get their education. Others may have postponed it. Maybe they've gotten married and they've had a family come and they just haven't had time to finish their college education. And as the children grow up or as circumstances change, they decide they want to fulfill that dream and come back and get that college degree. And many reasons.
One of the nice things about distance learning is you can be up working at the computer at any hour that's convenient. You do not have to be on campus at 9 o'clock for class.
Exactly. You can work anytime, any place. We have students that work in airports between flights. They have a
Yes.
wireless access point there, and they have their laptops.
The world is changing.
So anywhere.
Anywhere. I want to know this. How is this changing education? I think we're moving toward the distance learning thing, toward the individual motivation. Now, personally, I signed up for a couple of classes, distance learning years ago. I do better when I have to go, drive, park, go to class, sit there, face the professor, and meet a schedule than I do when I'm placed on. I procrastinate.
That's typical. I think a lot of adult learners either procrastinate on purpose or the priorities are such that the education kind of gets the low end of the scale when they put family and work and other things ahead of it.
I never procrastinate on purpose. I'm helpless.
Well, it may be. Can't comment on that one. But what we try to do is work with students. Servicing students is our highest priority and part of our key values at TUI. So what we're concerned about is having students have a successful experience. We don't want them to enroll and then just forget them. So we encourage them, and we're not setting artificial deadlines or things that hurdles or barriers. What we're trying to do is contact them, encourage them, ask them if there's anything we can do to help, to assist. So we do a lot of nagging, but we're not really being harsh about deadlines. We do have deadlines that we set for when assignments are due, but if a student has something that comes up, we can waive those deadlines. We encourage them to work around them. They still have to start and finish the course.
You work with the individual.
Absolutely.
I see. Now, I know that you're the dean of 2 of the colleges within the institution of the university. How many colleges are there?
We have 4 colleges currently. We have a College of Health Sciences and a College of Education. And the 2 you mentioned, the College of Business and the College of Information Systems.
Okay, now, health sciences, what does that prepare a person for?
Well, there's a variety of programs there. They have both bachelor's and master's and Ph.D. degrees, and most of it is in the, there are a lot of different specialties. I don't know that I can comment directly on what those specialties are. We do not have a nursing program, but it's more being able to work in public health, being able to work in environmental health.
But it's not a nursing program.
Not a nursing program.
That was what I was really questioning.
No.
How about the other one? You mentioned
the College of Education?
Yes.
The College of Education is primarily focused on educational leadership. At the
Administration versus teaching?
Yes.
It focuses on the administration.
Right.
Not on the teaching.
Yes, that's correct, as far as I know.
Okay. Now I want to hear about the College of Business Administration.
The College of Business Administration is very traditional. We offer 3 degrees. We offer a Bachelor's of Business Administration. We offer an MBA, and we offer a Ph.D. Now, unlike a lot of universities that have departments, we don't have degrees in accounting and degrees in finance and degrees in marketing and so on. What we have is a degree in a bachelor's degree in business administration, and then students may specialize in a concentration in those so-called functional areas of accounting or finance.
I think that's more along the old traditional lines anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. So we provide a general core curriculum, and then they are required to specialize in another 16 units in a specialty.
How many units does it take to get a degree, a bachelor's?
136.
How many does it take to get a master's on top of that?
44.
And for a doctorate?
Well, the doctorate's an unusual degree in the sense that there's two components. There's the course component, which is 44 units, and then there's the dissertation, which, depending on how long the student takes, may consume quite a few units. Normally, it's another 44 units.
44 units for a dissertation?
It depends. A dissertation is an independent project that the student has to perform in the direction of a professor and other committee members, and demonstrate that that student has understood and is able to apply some research to and creating new knowledge or information that wasn't previously noted. So we can't really put a timetable on that. There's a 3-year limit that requires them to finish, but every student's different, you know.
The reason I laugh, it took me 5 years on my dissertation at UCLA.
I'm not surprised. Because of UCLA, not because of you.
No, I don't know what it was. It was tough. And I had 2 languages. Do you have a language requirement on the doctorate?
Not a language requirement, no.
Is there a computer requirement on the doctorate in general, not in the information systems school, but in the business school?
There's a computer literacy requirement. There's no requirement like in the old days to learn a programming language or be able to have that substitute for a foreign.
But they have to be able to use it to do it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else do we need to know about the business school in particular?
Well, our MBA program is the largest program in the university. That's our flagship program. That's a very popular program. It's one that's well known in the marketplace.
And your students are all over the world.
Yes, they are. And one of our values at TUI is continuous improvement. So we're constantly looking at ways to enhance the curriculum, enhance the course materials, find ways to make sure that it's up to date and current and that there's a lot of relevance to it. So this is one reason that students come to us, and we're very successful with that program.
You know, working with this, how are your degrees accepted in foreign countries? Let's say that I'm in India and I want to take, and I get an MBA from TUI. Is that accepted without any question? Their employers are happy to have an American degree?
The key to having an American degree these days is to have an American degree from an accredited university.
Yes.
And as we know, there are 6 regional accreditation agencies, and then there's 1 national accreditation agency that schools can become accredited by, and they're regional. So here we're accredited by WASC, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. And
WASC.
And that's the same accreditation that, by the way, that the Cal State University system, the University of California system, Stanford, USC, Caltech, all of those are accredited by WASC at the general curriculum
So you're
level.
meeting the same standards that even the best known universities are meeting.
Exactly. Now the other part of that question is, we're a new university, so we don't have the name recognition that a Harvard or a Stanford or a UCLA would have in the marketplace or in the world.
No.
But the accreditation is the key thing to be accepted. A lot of those countries have had bad experiences with universities going in and not being accredited, and then having the degree have little or no value in those areas.
How long were you in business before you achieved that accreditation? You have to have some sort of a track record to get it, don't you?
Well, we were unique in the sense that when we first started, we were part of Touro College in New York. Touro College in New York is a large system of primarily Jewish institutions throughout the country, throughout the world, in fact.
I was not familiar with it. So.
And so they're based in New York City, and we became the distance learning arm of Touro College. What they did was quite interesting, though, is they set up, at that time, Touro University International as a separate entity. We still were under the same board of trustees that the Touro College people reported to. But we were an independent university founded by Yoram Newman here in California and set up as such. So as part of that investment and development, we came under Terrell College accreditation. And so we went through reaccreditation as part of that system with the Middle States accreditation, which is on the East Coast, primarily New York City, New York and other neighboring states.
So that you had accreditation, but it was earned the tough way.
It was earned the tough way, and then later on, because we're located in California, it was determined by WASC and others that we met the test to be independent of the Middle States accreditation, and so we were separately accreditation. The accreditation transferred from Middle States to WASC, and we're currently going through the reaccreditation process with WASC. So.
Now, I know that you personally have your doctorate. Where from?
Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona.
And in fact, you said you had your bachelor's, master's, and doctorate from
I did.
there.
That was one of convenience, living there. And
living there.
That was the only game
It
in
makes
town.
sense economically, too.
It does. Yeah.
And then you taught several years at SC.
I did. I was there at 20 years at USC in the Leventhal School of Accounting, which was part of the what is now the Marshall School of Business.
And then you have gone now with TUI.
Yes.
But you understand the standards and the hurdles that a person must go through in order to get a good doctorate. And so your school has that.
At TUI, we're somewhat unique in distance learning, distance education, in that we offer a pretty much traditional doctorate degree, Ph.D. degree. That is, we don't have a campus requirement or a residency requirement as it's called, but we do have very high expectations in terms of what students must do in their coursework and also at the dissertation stage. They have to, some of our students produce dissertations that are equal in quality to some of the best you'll see at any institution.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of distance education. These are individuals who would do well in a traditional PhD at an excellent university, but for whatever reason don't have the ability to go to a full-time program and attend classes.
Well, you told me a lot of them were in the military.
They are. At the PhD level, that's not the case, but our undergraduate and master's level programs, we have a large number of military students.
Any of them in Iraq?
Quite a few are in Iraq. This is one of the benefits. There's a lot of fighting that goes on in Iraq. A lot of bad things happen over there, but students like to take courses. It gets their minds off the other ugly side of things over there. And they have their laptops, and they're able to work on courses, and they're able to upload assignments. And we work with those kind of students in particular because they're in areas where they can't always have access to the internet or where they don't have access to computers every day. But if they have issues or problems, they notify us, we work with them, we give them extra time to do what they need to do.
It sounds like it's a very necessary service that you're going to see more of it in education all the time. Tell me about the School of Information Systems.
Well, the School of Information Systems is there for several reasons. One is we're focused primarily on information technology management. We're not focused on teaching folks about technology, but we're looking for those individuals who may have a technical position in a firm or an organization, but don't know much about the management of that technology. And as we've moved in our culture globally to a more technology-oriented society, we need to understand how to manage and control and maintain those kinds of systems that are going out there. We do have one technical program. We have a bachelor's degree in computer science, which is very traditional. It's a computer programming and hands-on.
It's all since 1980.
Yeah, that's true. But our other programs are about the management of technology. We just have a bachelor's degree of information technology management and a master's degree in information technology management.
I went over to the Huntington Beach Adult School, which is a branch of the high school, I think, to learn, Word and some of these other very fundamental programs so I could use my computer at home on the web. And you go way beyond that.
Well, we expect, since we're not online so much, we're distance learning and we require individuals to have computers. So there needs to be some level of computer literacy to be able to operate in that environment. but they don't need to use the computer to do anything very sophisticated. They need to know about word processing and maybe a spreadsheet program like Excel, for example, and to be able to open up PowerPoint or similar type presentation. So there's not a lot of deep knowledge required about the computer, even in the information technology
So this
program.
is, you have these fundamental operating things that you learn, but then you take it a step beyond that into the administration. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, all of our systems that we use to facilitate student interaction are developed internally, and students then, it's very simple. It doesn't require a lot of computer knowledge. It's simply just like using the internet and going to a location and uploading assignments and reading feedback from a faculty member. So if a person understands email and has some basic knowledge of the internet, they're fine.
I'm thinking that somebody may be watching this show 2 or 3 years into the future, you know, and possibly be somewhere overseas, because it does get circulated around from time to time. And the computer thing, I mean, you go buy a piece of equipment and it's outdated by the time you've walked out the front door of the store. How do you keep abreast of things?
Well, that's a very good question. One of the distinctions I want to make about the way that we do distance education at TUI is that it's not about the technology, it's about the content. So we're really probably a generation or two behind in the technology. In other words, we're not online, real-time, synchronous education, what they call, where there's a two-way conversation going on between students and faculty and that type of interaction. We're back to delivering the product, our courses on compact discs, working with an email, which is an asynchronous method. We do have the ability to have interaction or chats with students, but again, that's in an asynchronous manner.
What does asynchronous mean?
Asynchronous means not simultaneously. A student sends me a message, I respond back to the message. So it's not a simultaneous conversation like, say, a chat where they would click a button and start typing text, and I would see it and I'd respond to that, and back and forth. We're in
Some of that does go on, though, doesn't it?
Oh, sure. It doesn't go on at TUI so much. It goes on at, we do that a little bit with our Ph.D. students, but and the reason is we don't want to be technology driven. We want to focus on the course content and the quality. The delivery is important. We're going to be moving to online delivery as an option for students in the near future. But that's not what drives it. A lot of organizations that do distance learning, technology is the driver, and then it becomes too involved or too difficult or challenging and difficult to keep up and maintain.
Our guest is the Dean of the Business School and the Information Systems School at TUI University, Dr. Paul Watkins. And thank you very much for being with us on
Well, my pleasure.
Adventures in Life.
Thank you very much for inviting me.